It is that time of year again. The decorations are coming down, the holiday music has faded into a distant echo, and we are left with that strange, quiet void that sits between the year that has passed and the one that is just beginning. It is a moment that feels heavy with expectation. I want to have a real conversation with you today, not as a guru standing on a stage, but just as a friend sitting across from you at a late-night diner. We need to talk about that list. You know the one I am talking about. The New Year's resolution list. The New Year, New Me Manifesto. Every single January, we participate in this collective ritual. We buy the crisp new journals, the ones with the smooth, cream-colored paper. We buy the expensive gel pens. We sit down with a surge of manic energy, and we start writing. We map out a version of ourselves that is thinner, richer, happier, and infinitely more disciplined. We categorize our lives into neat little boxes. We have sections for health, for career, for finances, and for relationships. It looks beautiful on paper. It looks like control. It looks like we finally have our hands on the steering wheel of our destiny. But let me ask you a difficult question, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Does that list actually work? Or is it just a wish list? There is a difference between a plan and a letter to Santa Claus, but often what we write down is just a catalogue of our insecurities, masked as goals. We list the things we think we should do because we saw someone on Instagram doing them. We see the influencers with their 5 a.m. morning routines, their green juices, and their 6-figure side hustles. And we think, okay, if I just write this down, I will become that person. But there is a brutal reality we have to acknowledge. Science actually backs up this feeling of failure. A psychologist from the United Kingdom conducted a fascinating study involving 3,000 people who set new goals for the year. These were standard goals, like losing weight, quitting smoking, or learning a new language. At the start, 52% of them were confident they would succeed. They had the hype. They had the motivation. But by the end of the year, only 12% actually achieved what they set out to do. That is it? Just 12%. Another major market research firm found that 66% of people, that is 2 out of every 3 of us, abandon their goals within one single month. By February 1st, the gym is empty again. The journal is gathering dust on the nightstand. The old habits have crept back in like a fog. Why does this happen? Is it because we are lazy? Is it because we lack willpower or grit? Please, do not go down that road of self-blame. Do not tell yourself you are just not disciplined enough. That is not the root cause. The reason you fail is not a character defect. The reason you fail is that you have never been taught how to actually plan for a year in a way that aligns with human psychology. We confuse busyness with effectiveness. We think that if we have 20 items on our to-do list, we are being productive. But really, we are just drowning. We are setting ourselves up for a cycle of enthusiasm followed by shame. We need to strip this whole process down to the studs and rebuild it. Before you write a single bullet point for this coming year, you need to understand the philosophy of the end game. There is a concept I want you to sit with. It comes from Stephen Covey, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Now, I know that sounds like a corporate buzzword book, but the core philosophy is deeply spiritual. The second habit he talks about is begin with the end in mind. In the original English text, this isn't just about having a target. It is about visualization. It is about understanding the destination before you even pack your bags. Many of us mistranslate the word goal. We think a goal is an external object, like a trophy or a number in a bank account. But a true goal is a mental creation. It is the final thought you hold in your mind about who you want to be. Before you worry about the how, the daily schedules, the apps, the trackers, you need to clarify the what and the why. What is the ultimate feeling you want to possess when this year closes? Why does that result matter to your soul? If you cannot answer those questions with absolute clarity, no amount of color-coded planning will save you. I see so many videos online right now, the ones with the aesthetic thumbnails, teaching you how to build complex spreadsheets for your life. They tell you to break your life down into 7 different pillars: learning, growth, health, wealth, career, love, and leisure. Then they tell you to break those yearly pillars down into monthly milestones, then weekly sprints, and finally, daily tasks. Look, I am not saying that method is wrong. For a machine, it is perfect. But for a human being, it is exhausting. For the vast majority of us, just keeping up with a weekly laundry schedule is a struggle. When you try to overhaul your entire existence across 7 different categories simultaneously, you are inviting burnout to sit at your table. You are treating yourself like a corporation, not a person. You should be wary of any plan that focuses on volume. If your plan relies on you being perfect in 5 different areas of life starting January 1st, that plan is fragile. It will break the moment life happens, the moment you get the flu, or have a bad breakup, or just feel tired. A sustainable year plan should not be heavy on quantity. It should be heavy on quality. It should be heavy on depth. Do not waste your precious time agonizing over the format of your planner or the aesthetics of your vision board. Do not worry about filling every hour of your calendar. That is just productive procrastination. The true work of planning your year comes down to answering one terrifyingly simple question. If this year comes to an end, and you could only successfully accomplish one single thing, just one, what would that thing be? What is the one thing that, if achieved, would make you look back and say, yes, this year mattered? This approach feels radical because it goes against everything our hustle culture tells us. We are told we can have it all, do it all, and be it all at once. But that is a lie that keeps us tired and mediocre. Real power comes from focus. This philosophy brings us to a book that absolutely changed the way I view productivity. It is called The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. If you have not read it, the title gives away the secret, but the application is where the magic happens. The authors argue a point that is completely counterintuitive to our modern world. They say that success is not about doing more things, it is about doing the right thing. There is a quote from the book that I have written on a sticky note on my desk. It says, "Success is sequential, not simultaneous." Let that sink in for a moment. Success is sequential, not simultaneous. Most of us build our annual plans based on the lie of simultaneous success. I am sure your draft plan for this year looks something like this. You want to lose 20 pounds. You want to read 50 books. You want to save $10,000. You want to learn to speak fluent Spanish. You want to train for a half marathon. And you want to do all of this starting on the first Monday of January. Visually, that plan looks impressive. It looks like the blueprint for a superhero. It is a plan for a comprehensive self-improvement project. And sure, if you could actually pull that off, you would be incredible. Even if you only achieved 80% of that list, you would have a banner year. But here is the problem. Do you actually have the bandwidth to fight a war on 5 different fronts at the same time? The answer, for almost all of us, is no. When you try to be everything, you end up becoming nothing. You spread your energy so thin that it evaporates. I want to offer you a distinction that might help clarify this mess. We need to separate maintenance habits from the one thing. Things like exercising, reading a few pages of a book, or practicing a language app for 10 minutes. Those are daily rituals. They are maintenance. They are the baseline requirements for a healthy life, like brushing your teeth or making your bed. You should definitely try to build those habits. But a one-thing goal is different. A one-thing goal is a strategic strike. It is a heavy lift that requires deep focus, extended time, and creative energy. You cannot have 5 of those. You can really only handle one. When you find that one major priority and you pour your best energy into it, you trigger something called the domino effect. This is not just a metaphor. It is physics. A single domino is capable of knocking over another domino that is 50% larger than itself. If you line up a chain of dominoes, starting with a tiny piece just 2 inches tall, and you scale each subsequent piece up by 50%, by the time you reach the 18th domino, you are knocking over a structure as tall as the Leaning Tower of Pisa. By the 23rd domino, you are knocking over the Eiffel Tower. By the 31st domino, that piece is looming over Mount Everest. This is how success actually works. It starts small, but it compounds. It is geometric. But for the chain reaction to work, you have to identify the very first domino. You have to find the lead domino. If we look at life horizontally, it resembles a marathon. We are running alongside everyone else, trying to accumulate miles, trying to pick up good habits here and there. That is the long game. But if you look at life vertically, if you look at depth, that is where the domino effect lives. You need to find the one area of your life where, if you apply pressure, it unlocks everything else. Successful people operate differently than the rest of us. They do not have supernatural willpower. They just have better pattern recognition. They look at the chaos of their lives, the messy finances, the strained relationships, the stalled career, and they do not try to fix the chaos. They look for the axis. They ask themselves, what is the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? They realize that if they focus entirely on that one lead domino, the kinetic energy will take care of the rest. For example, maybe your lead domino isn't get a better job or save money. Maybe your lead domino is mastering a high-value skill. If you knock that domino down, the better job comes automatically. The money comes automatically. The confidence comes automatically. You did not have to micromanage those outcomes. You just had to push the right lever. Contrast that with the person who is trying to do it all. They are exhausted. They are trying to force the money, force the job, and force the skills all at once. They are pushing against a wall instead of tipping a domino. The most brilliant minds understand that it is better to be world-class at one thing than average at 100 things. They understand that you do not need a list of 20 goals. You need one goal that is heavy enough to anchor your entire year. You might be thinking, okay, that sounds great in theory, but how do I actually find my domino? How do I know I am not picking the wrong thing? That is the million-dollar question. It is the fear of missing out that keeps us paralyzed. We are terrified that if we choose one path, we are abandoning all the others. But the irony is that by refusing to choose, we lose everything. We have to be brave enough to narrow our focus. So, how do we actually find this elusive one thing? How do we sift through the noise of our desires and locate the signal? I'm going to give you a practical, 3-step framework to do exactly that. This is not about guessing. It is about engineering your year for clarity. Step 1 is what I call the brain dump and filter. I want you to sit down in a quiet room, open a blank page, and clear your mental cache. Write down absolutely everything you think you want to achieve this year. Do not edit yourself yet. Just get it all out of your head and onto the paper. Once you have that chaotic list, we are going to apply a filter that you might have heard of in the corporate world, but we are going to use it for your soul. We are going to use the SMAR to NOI framework. First, your goal must be specific. Saying I want to be rich is not a goal, it is a fantasy. You need to define what rich means to you. Does it mean being debt-free? Does it mean having a specific amount in your investment account? Second, it must be measurable. You need a scorecard. If you cannot track it, you cannot improve it. Third, it must be attainable. This is the reality check. If you are currently making $40,000 a year, setting a goal to make $1 billion in the next 12 months is not ambition, it is delusion. You want a goal that stretches you, not one that breaks you. Fourth, it must be relevant. This is crucial. Does this goal actually matter to your long-term happiness? Or are you just doing it because your parents or society told you to? And finally, it must be time-bound. A goal without a deadline is just a dream that you can push off forever. Let us look at an example. Instead of writing, I want to be wealthy, a specific, measurable, and time-bound version would be, I will increase my net income by 20% by December 31st by launching a freelance design business. That is a target you can actually hit. Once you have refined your list with that filter, we move to step 2, the great elimination. This is where it gets painful, but this is where the magic happens. I want you to look at your list of refined goals and ruthlessly cut it down. You are going to apply the 80-20 rule. Which 20% of these goals will give you 80% of the satisfaction? I want you to cross things out until you are left with only 3 items. Just 3. Now we arrive at step 3, the most important step of all, the coronation. We need to pick the king. We need to choose the one single goal that will lead your year. To help you choose between your final 3, I want you to ask yourself 3 difficult questions. Question number 1. What is the biggest boulder blocking your path right now? Look at your life honestly. Are you stagnant in your career? Is your health deteriorating? Is there a toxic relationship draining your energy? Often, your one thing is simply the solution to your biggest pain point. We often try to ignore our problems by setting fun goals, but true growth comes from facing the dragon in the cave. Question number 2. I want you to engage in some time travel. Imagine yourself 5 years from now. You are looking back at this year. What is the one thing that, if you failed to do it, would fill you with absolute regret? We often regret the things we did not do far more than the things we did. Use that fear of future regret as a compass to guide you today. Question number 3. This is the domino question. Which of these 3 goals is the force multiplier? If you achieved goal A, would it make goal B and goal C easier or even unnecessary? For example, if your 3 goals are network with high-level people, buy a better car, and become a recognized expert in my field, the answer is obvious. If you become a recognized expert, the network comes to you, and you can afford the car. Becoming the expert is the lead domino. If you have gone through this entire process, and you are still staring at a blank page, or if you still feel torn between options, I have a challenge for you. This weekend, I want you to go into monk mode. Cancel the brunch plans. Put your phone in a drawer. Do not open Netflix. Spend one entire day in silence with just a notebook. We are so terrified of boredom that we never give our intuition a chance to speak. We drown out our inner voice with podcasts and playlists. But if you get quiet enough, the answer will usually float to the surface. You have to realize that your brain is designed to protect you. It loves easy, repetitive tasks because they feel safe. It loves checking off reply to emails or organize the desk because those tasks give you a quick hit of dopamine without any risk of failure. That is not productivity. That is productive procrastination. It is a way of hiding. It is working hard to avoid doing the hard work. Finding your one thing requires you to fight that instinct. It requires you to choose the path that feels a little bit scary. If your goal does not scare you a little bit, it is probably not big enough. So, here is where we leave it. As you step into this new year, I do not want you to have a long, beautiful, color-coded list of 20 resolutions that you will abandon by February. I want you to have one clear mission. I want you to find that first domino. I want you to line it up, and I want you to push it over with everything you have got. Because if you can do that, if you can truly master the art of focus, you will not just have a successful year, you will have a year that changes the trajectory of your entire life. Go find your domino.